Hey, hello, hi. I'm still it's sufficiently not good at this that I'm going to ask if everyone can hear me, just to make sure the audio is working. Hi. Thank you so much. Twice. This is the second time I've been doing streaming. I am quiet. It says I am quiet. Okay, let's see if I can turn myself up a little bit. Do do do. Hopefully, is this any better? No, any better? I'm gonna move my mic closer to me. Maybe that will help. Little quiet. Okay. Um, I'll see if I can get that boosted in just a sec, and then you'll be off. Is this any better? Any better? Any? How's this? Is this? Oop, maybe that might be too much. How's that? Is that better? Try not to clip, but hopefully that's better. A bit more gain on the input. If I'm blowing up the mic at any point, let me know if I turned the gain up a fair amount. Hi everyone, how is it going? It is let's see, I've minimized this and all right. It's a lovely 66 degrees in my garage, according to the weather report. And it's, I think, only 55 outside. It's cold here in California, but we're going to make some cool stuff this week. Oh, my chat is weirdly giant. I'm having this weird thing where every single time I try to use. I went dark. Sorry about that. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. At some point, I'll need to figure out what to do about that gigantic misshapen chat box in the corner of my screen because that looks very incorrect. And this is why it's only my second time streaming because when I go to try to fix something in OBS, I turn off my entire audio source. Nice time to be just as I'm being hosted by Twitch Dev, which is super kind of them. Folks at Twitch are helping because I'm talking about Glitch on Twitch, and they talk about Twitch on Glitch, and we're sort of partnering. And we're not partnering, but they're kind enough to host me today while I go through some stuff. And Studio Mode and OBS might be my friend. I think you're right, Ellen Orchard. I think you might be right. We're still getting a little better at this. But I appreciate the kindness. 26 viewers right now. Okay, well then let's get down to business. I do apologize for the weird misshapen chat in my corner of my screen. I'll try. I'm just gonna remove that for the time being, and we'll have some darkness there. It's just a bit big, so I'm just gonna remove it. Cool. Okay. Thought I had my OBS dialed in today. Not quite. That's all right. So let's get started for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to be doing a little bit of live coding on Glitch. Glitch, if you don't know, is a online editor and hosting service and incredible inspiration and great way to make cool stuff online. I'm Potch. I am developer advocate at Glitch, but today I'm going to be your host as we go through a little bit of coding. Last week I played with WebSockets and that was super fun, and we got a little do some interactive stuff. This week I'm going to do something a little different, but still in the spirit of fun. I'm going to scratch an itch that I've personally had, and we're going to learn a different library. And today that library is going to be Phaser. I'm not sure if any of you have used the Phaser. Let me get that zoomed down a little bit. I'm not sure if any of you have ever used the Phaser game dev library to make web games. It's HTML5 game dev library. Uses JavaScript, super fun. We're going to try to build a really simple platformer today and use that as maybe a basis that other people can build on top of in the future. So that's the goal. 2 hours. Let's see if we can do it. Let's see how far we can get in the first hour, and then we'll start playing around in the audience. If you've used Phaser before and you see me making glaring errors, please, please, please just call them out. We're going to get through this together. So let us get started. All right, gonna make my browser window a little wider. Thanks, Moom. Get rid of the weather for the time being. Okay, cool. So, Stephen P. Adams, thank you very, very much for the follow. Appreciate that. We're going to get started with Phaser. If as we sort of started with last week, we're all going to kind of learn this together. I'm vaguely familiar with Phaser. I have never built anything in Phaser, and going to kind of go through my process of how I'm going to learn this, and it's going to be a lot of copy pasting because in reality, that's how I learn things. I dig into your docs and I find your examples and I copy paste them and we see how they work, and then we change them and get rewarded. So let's dig around. First off, we need Phaser. It's available in a couple different flavors, but I'm going to be using JavaScript today. Maybe learning TypeScript will be a later stream. So, Phaser 3. Sure, let's learn Phaser 3. That seems like the updated one. They want me to have a developer environment, file. Let's see. Why do I need a local web server? Okay, well, we're not going to use a local web server. We're going to use Glitch today. Oh, hey, Mauerbach. I actually, forgive me, I don't know if I know how to pronounce your name exactly. But hello, thank you so much for being on the stream today. And thanks, Traveler, for the follow, and Halviviz for the follow. I really appreciate that. All right, so we're trying to make games on the web. They're right. Why do I need a local web server? Why can't I just drag HTML files onto my browser? It's a very reasonable question. And they're right. In the modern era, sometimes you need your local files to behave like a server. You might be limited to what you can do over HTTP versus the file protocol and stuff like that. I totally understand that, but because we're going to be using Glitch, we're going to have a server right out of the box, and we don't have to worry about setting up a local dev server because it's all going to be running on Glitch. So let's get to the goods of it. They're going to tell me about how to set up various kinds of servers and simple HTTP and Node.js, and we are going to use a Node server, but we can go right past that. Oh, this is very, there we go. Let's go to download Phaser, shall we? Can I just get a zip tar file? They want me to use, it looks like clone it or getting the JS file. Let's see what we've got. Oh, they're on the JS deliver CDN. That will be perfect. Because we're learning it, I'm not going to use the minified version. I might need to dig in and see what's going on. Oh, it's also available from NPM. I see Cassie is calling out, cheering for NPM. NPM. Gonna pull into the McDonald's and order a single black coffee and be off. Today, I don't know if I'm going to pull in NPM because then I'm probably going to have to use a build system to get the files out of node modules into the front end. And that's a lot of scaffolding that I probably should do. But to just say, hey, we're making a Phaser game, I think I might start with just the unminified version of Phaser via the CDN today. Question. It's why would I use this via NPM versus a CDN? That's a good question. An NPM checkout's probably gonna have all the different kinds of plugins and extra files. And here, we can even jump over to what it looks like on GitHub, and you can see roughly what we'd get if we built this on. If you use the NPM version of the package, inside the node modules folder, we're probably going to have a bunch of this stuff. Maybe it'll just be one of these folders. And then if we were going to be coding, let's say, in a transpiled language or using Webpack, we could take the Phaser modules and put them all together and build them and then just serve one file to our front end versus the NPM where... thank you for getting the reference, Nightpool. And so if we're going to be, building something where we're going to have a bunch of files on the server and potentially even having a build process, it may make sense to grab the NPM package and pick and choose what we need. Maybe we'll get some advanced build systems have things like tree shaking, and we'll actually be able to, pull out the functions we're not using and all that kind of stuff. If you just use via CDN, you get the advantage that you don't have to serve that file. The downside is you get everything that's in that JS bundle, whether we're using it or not, but we're not necessarily going to have modules. So as I've talked about whether or not I should use NPM, I'm starting to think that maybe I should use NPM, actually. So after all of that talk about why I might just use the CDN, I think I'm not going to use the CDN and we're going to use a node project. So it is time. Let's make our project. I'm going to go here and I was almost going to say hello web page, which would be a completely front end, static side, nice thing. Instead, I think I'm going to go hello express and actually start up with a node server as well as a client. And that will let me install Phaser via NPM, and then we can get the files we need out of it. And I will show you what that looks like. So yeah, after all that talking, Cassie, you convinced me. You chanted NPM, 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 and now I'm going to do that. So let's take a look. Okay, here is our brand new snazzy empty glitch project that's built on Express. Messy caution. And I can see what that looks like right now. It starts with like a kind of a little simple like to-do CRUD thing because that's what our starter project looks like when you remix. And I'm going to hopefully that works. If someone says bang project, they can jump in and take a look what's going on there. Otherwise, you can also just go to the URL, my URL bar, and play along. I'm going to bump up the screen, the zoom size of everything just a little bit so you can see the code a little better. That's okay. I'm never averse to the large print edition anyway. So to start, we need Phaser. So let's go to package.json, and because we're using it via NPM, once again, Glitch sees a package.json file, knows it's a package.json file, and will actually let me add packages to it and knows how to interact with that in a smarter way than just letting me edit the JSON. So let's get Phaser. It's going to think for a second and rebuild and wonder what this. All right, and it's thinking, Let's take a look. And if you check down here, we open the logs, you can see that it installed a bunch of stuff and installed Phaser. So we now have Phaser on our system and we can use it. What that would look like is that now there's going to be a node modules directory with Phaser files in it. I'm going to confirm that really quick. I'm going to pop open the console and just take a look around. And in here, we've got all the stuff that got installed, which is fine. Ooh, maybe the font size bump up has messed with my ability to see what I'm typing. Yes, it did. Okay, so let's bump that down once and say, so we're in node modules, and we're going to go into Phaser. Let's see what's in here. Looks like we've got a dist folder. And in there, we've got all those files again. So I can serve, as Les says, I can actually serve node modules from Express. Osmos asks, can HTML pages and a glitch app load JS files from node modules? No, not necessarily, because there's node modules is not really kind of present in the client-only project. It's just static files. There isn't a node modules thing. But as Les says, you could serve up node modules from Express, and that's exactly what we're going to do. In this case, I'm going to do the sort of cheap and easy trick, and I'm going to go into our server. And we have this server that's serving static files, and we've got Express, and so we've got static file serving. But what if we also wanted to map maybe let's say JS, let's say lib Phaser, and we mapped that to express.static node modules Phaser dist. All right, so now we're actually serving up two different folders, both as static paths. And if I did this right, now if I go to lib Phaser, We can't get it, but if I do phaser.js, haha! All right. So we're now actually serving files out of the node. Because we have a little Express server, we can hook up the dist from Phaser on npm to our to actually serve files publicly without having to expose our whole node modules thing and be sketchy. So this is a pretty good trick to be able to quickly map this stuff together. I still don't technically need a build step, which is great because I don't know that we've got that kind of time today. So we are going to leave the console. Maybe I'll leave the logs open though. All kinds of good errors in the back scroll. So here's our really, really basic server. And for now, I think this is all we're going to need. We've got our copy of Phaser. We've got files in our public folder being served, and we're serving our index file. So, okay, we've got this lovely pre-built static file that has this little example CRUD app. We're not going to need a good chunk of this, and by a good chunk of it, I mean most of it. So we're just going to clean that up. We'll leave that, sure, why not? The button's nice, all those things are pretty. Now that we're actually starting to build an app with some visuals, I am going to pop out the game. And I will size that appropriately. And I'm going to throw a little bit of caution to the wind and mess with OBS really quickly to uncrop that window a little bit. Actually, no, I'm not. I've got too much stuff on the side rail here to uncrop that. Sorry. Did I say that? I take it back. Crop right 1610. So let's do. Gonna uncrop the screen a little bit. You might see stuff flying around for a moment as I get my crop settings dialed in. Or you won't. Great. All right. That looks pretty good. And now I just need to make the holding container a little bit larger. And that looks a little better. Okay, great. So now we've got a little bit more stuff on the screen. I can hide OBS for now. Oh, Lizzie says there are a bunch of other Phaser apps. This is true. This is really me trying to learn Phaser, but we actually use Phaser a lot at Glitch. We did a collaboration with Mythbusters Jr. And there's still some apps coming out there, and a lot of those games and all those interactions were built in Phaser. And honestly, I saw some of those cool Phaser apps, and I was like, hey, I'd love to learn some Phaser myself. So let's pull those up real quick, because I think those are cool. Oh, and of course, the most recent project is a fart machine. Awesome, super mature. Space extinguisher is a good one. I may actually be taking a look. I'm going to keep these open because A, I think they're amazing, and secondly, I think that some of the code in here will be useful for me to learn from. So I'll drop a link to this just because I think these are some cool apps. And back to where we were. Okay. Oop, I meant to leave that tab open. Like, you do things and it does things and it's fun. Megatron, just a heads up. You may not be able to post a link I may need to potentially, yeah, you can't post links. Sorry. I can fix that some other time. So let's go into the meat here. Now we need phaser. So and let's. So we've got our live updating window here on the right, and we've got our editor here on the left. My first phaser. Okay. So, okay, gonna actually open the DevTools too, make sure everything is how we want it. All right, so we can, looks like the phaser.js file is loading. Let's take a look. Yes, so phaser.js is loading. Fantastic. Back into it. Getting started with phaser. A hello world. Let's just copy paste this hello world into our file and take a look at what it's going to do. Oh, that was weirdly easy. I'm going to quick auto format this file. I do have the cat. A couple people have noticed the cat. So I'm going to click on the cat and see what's going on. What's new here? The toolbox is down the bottom. User descriptions. Oh, cool, cool, cool. So that I have now dismissed the cat. I'm very sorry, but the cat just tells me what's going on and what's new here. So I copy pasted the phaser hello world code in, and it immediately turned into a game. That was extremely fast. So now let's go read this code and figure out what the heck it did. Phaser auto scene preload create. Okay, so we've got a config object. We create a new phaser game using that config object. What's interesting here is, I believe when I looked at the example, it expected me to have the arcade physics version of phaser, and I don't think I'm using that one. So I wonder if that's... looks like it's got gravity though. I don't know. That's an interesting thing to see. Images are not loading due to cores is a message I'm getting. Blocked loading mixed active content. I wonder if I throw an S on there, if that would work. All right, the physics is fine, loading demo images. So now we've got our demo images loading. I'm going to make the window a little bit narrower just because I want to have the live code next to the other stuff. So let's go. Still too wide. Let's go classic VGA, shall we? Sweet. I thought the green, honestly, I thought the bouncing green boxes were like, capital A aesthetic, but it was actually just a bug. So, okay, let's go back to reading this code. There's a base URL for loading files from, and then you can load different assets from. And it looks like they want a sky. They're using the nice, pretty space image for their sky. And then particles. I'm super into particles. I would love aesthetic. I would love to have some particle effects. Maybe we can play with those a bit later. or we can just never remove them. There's an emitter. There's an image and particles, and it looks like the particle emitter and the image both are coming from the same place. So let's see, how are they attached to one another? Oh, emitter follows logo. Okay, cool. Okay, so we have a bouncing logo with a little bit of gravity. Let's make it. Can you make it bouncier? Let's edit the variables and see. Aha! Now it's not quite reaching the top. It's almost reaching and bouncing. Now it's got some serious gravity to it. Twice as much gravity. Cool. I like lots of gravity. Are the particles colors just any valid CSS color values? Add particles red. No, it looks like they're using a texture called red. Is what that looks like. Sure enough, here, B Cardell looks like when I hover this request, you'll see there's a sort of semi-transparent red image that they're using for the particle texture. It just how it happens to be named red, which is very convenient. Okay, so now we have Phaser working at all in a glitch project. A couple things. It's attaching itself at the bottom of my document, but I kind of want it to go into the main element. So now, let's go take a look. We're going to read some docs. I know, docs, reading the docs live. It's the most exciting possible thing. But making a new game. The game, which renderer to use, parent. Here we go. The DOM element into which this game's canvas will be injected, either a DOM ID string or the element itself. So, and we're going to do, because I didn't really give it an ID, so let's just do main. Don't need that semicolon. And now, cool. So now our game is injected into the right spot. I love these graphics, but it's not. I don't know if this is a platformer. My goal is to make a really simple platformer where a character can run around and jump and have keyboard controls and all the good stuff. So let's see. Looked like Phaser itself had examples. Let's take a look at some of those. Phaser examples on this site. The 3.0 docs are in a different spot. Cool. Phaser 3 examples. Is there a labs.phaser.io? Games. Do we think one of these is a cool jumping game? Okay, so now I'm learning that Phaser 3 is different from Phaser 2. I did not know that. The lab site is right, and they've got Phaser docs. Ooh, look, okay, this is a completely different looking website, and it's no longer Phaser, it's Phase 3er. So, this looks similar. If I wish to run the docs locally, no, I'm good. Free the docs online, use the document menus. Okay. So far the changes I've made seem to be the same thing. How do I replace my like bouncing phaser logo with particles, which is super cool, with a little avatar that I can drive around. Um, Basic phaser platformer. Looks like I have searched this in the past, which is awesome. So what's this going to look like? Oh, hey. Little phaser onion dude. All right. I hit spacebar and it jumps. Now I know this is a V2 example, not a V3 example, but now I'm wondering if this one has been updated for phaser V3. Hundreds of examples in the labs. What was this example called? Arcade physics, platformer basics. So let's look to see if arcade physics is a category in here. No. Is it in games? No. Ooh, look at this. Okay, this looks like an arcade. This, however, does look like an arcade game. We're just going to jump all the way to part 9, see what we've got here. All right, so here is a little tiny platformer. Is bubble a existing particle options? Assets, particle. Oh, Lizzie, you're digging around. Lizzie's digging around in the assets folder and looking for other kinds of particles. Yeah, bubble's pretty good. So, okay, I'm gonna say pretend that phaser 3 and phaser 2 are not as different as they could be, because I kind of want. Oh, this looks super different. Okay, I see what's going on here. This looks super different. Um, what version of phaser am I even using? If I just ask for phaser, I get phaser version 3, phaser API docs. So today we are learning about how to start learning a project that's in the middle of a transition, which is not always the easiest thing in the world to do. So what I'm facing is I wanted to learn phaser. It looks like phaser is in a transitional state between phaser 2 and 3, and a lot of the existing examples are for phaser 2. I could downgrade to phaser 2, or we could plow ahead and learn phaser 3 and see if we can't make a pretty slick little game. What does everyone think? What does everyone think? Should we learn phaser 3 together, and I promise not to stare and furrow my brow for too long? Or should we downgrade to phaser 2 and get the game made? Thank you, Trust Me SC2, for the follow. Go with 3. Okay, phaser 3, phaser 3. Let's do 3. Okay, 3 votes for 3. I'm excited. All right, let's learn. Loading phaser build. There's the code for this game on this page, or is this an iframe? Ooh, someone is telling me that lines. Oh, yeah. Lizzie, I can do that. We're definitely going to learn Phaser 3. I need to figure out whether this code it looks like it is Phaser 3 code, given that it's working, but I'm not sure. So let's go back to our code, and we've got some little red dots on my editor. Those red dots, if you're editing on Glitch, Glitch is live running ESLint against your project and gives you little heads ups if it sees things that it doesn't understand or things are errors. So I've got a red dot on line 2. If I hover here, it says phaser is not defined. So ESLint's looking at this file and saying, hey, I see you referring to a variable called phaser. Phaser is not defined on gate line 18 as well. I see you, referring to a line called, this variable called phaser. That's not in this file. So I think you're making a mistake. And that's fair. I think I think it's reasonable that ESLint is trying to warn me about using a variable that it thinks I haven't declared. I know that phaser is available because I pulled it in using a script tag. So I can actually tell ESLint that I've done that, and I can say global ESLint. Oh, and say global phaser. Yep. So now ESLint is like, oh, right, okay. That's a thing that's just always available. Twitch was not unhappy. Not happy. Spoiler. No, code help is okay. Code help is okay. No, that was not the big reveal. But thank you. So yeah, I can put global phaser in the file, and it goes, okay, have assured me, we will assure each other like lawyers, that there's a variable in here called phaser. When you reference that, we're good. And so now no more red dots. If I see a red dot, I know it's an error that I don't know about, and that's probably good news. So physics, arcade gravity, scene, preload, create. So there's a function called preload that's going to load a bunch of graphics for us. And then there's a function create that's going to build the game. It is that time of the afternoon where Git ahead. Oh, Les wants to check all of us in to Git, and I respect that. Because he is committing. Yes, as Cassie Lotman has said, Kitty, yes, I have a cat. Sometimes in the afternoon, he decides that it is dinner time and is wrong. So if you hear a whining cat in the background, I'm very, very sorry. Hopefully, he keeps his chill. But I doubt it, because it's not really his thing. Okay, so knowing that I wanted to make a little platformer, I have some old sprites that I drew of myself, and I want to use them so I can run around. I have a little running animation that I made of myself, and I'd love to use that as a character in my game. So I'm going to just grab that file, so when it's time to reference that, I can. I wonder if I can load files in more than one place. We will find out. But so I've got a file called me sprite me. A lot of files on the system, but oh, Spotlight, never change. Me sprite. That's very small. Hopefully you can see that. All right, so many moons ago, I was doing some pixel drawing and decided to draw myself as a little character. I was wearing a pink shirt, but otherwise, this is a pretty close likeness. And I would love to use this as my little running around character. So I need to get this file into my project. Because it's an image, it's a little bit larger. Maybe I don't necessarily want my server to be serving that. By default, a glitch offers what are called assets, an assets folder. So if I drag this into my project, it's going to say drop files to upload. And now in my assets directory, there is another file. And that file is my little graphic of me, a sprite. And I now have a URL that's on the glitch CDN that I can pull this file in from. I'm wondering if I'm able to refer to an absolute path, even though my this.load is, in fact, using a base URL. Maybe I can just do this. I can probably look up the docs, and I'm sure when this doesn't work, I will do that. Oh, but so this is an image. It's a sprite. Okay, let's go do some learning. Phaser 3. I'm sure anyone who's spent any time on this is way ahead of me and is like, what are you doing? You need to make a sprite and not an image. I think I know enough to know that there is a difference there. So this says this is the docs, but then I look at it and it's like only kind of the docs. Like, where is the actual API documentation for Phaser? This is like, yeah, API documentation to read the docs online. Okay. Aha! There we go. A sprite game object is used for the display of both static and animated images in my game. Sprites can have input events and physics bodies. They can be tweened, tilted, scrolled, and animated. This seems like my jam. So I'm going to take a look at this, and I'm going to take a look at one of these examples. Hopefully there's an example for sprites that I don't have to completely relearn. I know I'm looking at the Phaser 2 examples again, but we're going to cobble this together. Physics. Arcade. Body on a path, custom debug colors. This is definitely a much sketchier area than I would. Okay, making my first Phaser game appears to be about. Making my first Phaser 3 game. Download the zip file. Okay, so after all of that fumbling around, I'm going to just take a moment and reset. After all that fumbling around, I just found that I had opened this tab called Making My First Phaser 3 Game. It kind of seems like that's what I'm going to want to do because I'm trying to make my first Phaser 3 game. And in fact, the example looks like it's a platformer. So, all right. As opposed to flailing wildly Kermit-like around the entire internet looking for examples, I'm going to work through this and close a few of these other tabs. So, okay. Making my first Phaser 3 game. What is Phaser? I know what that is. I've got a zip file. I need a game. All right, so we're going to go back to basics. Let's see. The code that they just sent me looks similar. I know everything is going to be really messy for just 1 second. Phaser. I like that I've got arcade physics. I like that I've got gravity. But let's work through this together super fast. And to heck with it, I am going to. I think I am going to use. I think I am going to use my main element. But let's work through this as if I hadn't already tried to adapt a big piece of copy pasta. And also, let's do this as ES6 because we can. Which for me, is for the most part, is just that so far. So we've got 3 primary methods. And those config. Got 3 methods: a preload, which is going to load our assets, a create method, which is going to set up everything for our game, and then an update function. I imagine is going to be sort of the game loop. I mentioned if I read this code, it would tell me the exact same thing. So, okay, now we need assets. Preload assets. Currently, we need to load images. So I do need images. Um, I do need a sky. Maybe we can go get that cool sky from the phaser game, or maybe I could ignore that for the moment and just load my sprite. Because that's all I've got in my example. Ooh, I don't know how I feel about that curly brace style. I'm going to use my auto formatter to take care of that. Cool. So I know that I've got a dude, and I know where that dude lives. And I'm hoping that when I go to assets and copy the URL of my sprite, I will get I will be able to provide an absolute URL here, and it will just magically work. But we'll go on a voyage of discovery. And if not, I will learn why. Gonna once again do auto format. By the way, when I say auto format, I'm using Firefox, and I built a extension called Glitch Prettier, which uses the Prettier JS formatter and lets me push a button or hit a keystroke and run Prettier on my file and auto format it. I'll drop a link here just because I feel like that's pretty useful. You'll see me doing that a lot, especially when I'm copy pasting code in. Yes, web extensions for the win. That's a sort of based on a Chrome extension that did something similar, and I just wanted that for Firefox, so I adapted it. Normally, you can just kind of run more or less. You can run Chrome extensions in Firefox. In this case, I adapted it for capital R reasons that I'm not going to get into right now. So did this actually load my graphic? I know I'm not drawing my graphic, so I won't necessarily know. But let's take a look. Yeah, I loaded it. Okay, so giving it an absolute URL totally worked. Let's see. No AMO love for Glitch Prettier. Not gonna lie to you. I did it in a very hurry and just distroed it via GitHub. I would love to go back in and put on AMO for other people, so it'll be easier to find. Frame width 32, frame height 48. So the sprites they were using had 30 pixels wide and 48 pixels tall. I know for a fact that the sprites I'm using are 16 pixels tall, or 16 pixels wide and 32 pixels tall. Obviously, we're not going to see anything, but I'm going to use that. So I have a sprite sheet. The asset key is a string linked to the loaded asset while using my code and building game objects. Awesome. Okay, so if I can refer to my sprite sheet as dude. Display an image, I can say, if I wanted to draw the image onto the page, I could have used, if I have an image, I could use that. But what if I want to use my sprite? Under the hood, image is creating new image game objects and adding it to the current scenes display list. This is where all my game objects live. I can position the image anywhere and Phaser will not mind. If it's outside the reason, I'm not going to see it. It'll just be off screen, but I can still use those variables, so I don't have to check. Everyone's trying to drop links to what AMO is. I apologize. AMO is addons.mozilla.org. It's where you get extensions for Firefox. Sorry. Yeah. Under the hood, we're creating a new image game object. Cool, but let's go learn about how to use sprites. Okay, they are going to bring in physics. I do want physics. Oh, look at all this stuff. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't ignore all of these other pieces of information. Huh. Hey, I'm Morlandra. How's it going? Thanks for popping into the channel. I didn't tell you I'm doing this. I'm very sorry. I just tweeted about it a bunch. But this is only my second time doing it. I'm obviously not doing a very good job of promoting. But thanks for dropping in. So they have sky and ground and all of this useful stuff that maybe I shouldn't have ignored, because now when I need to use those graphics, I don't have them. Let's grab the zip file and take a look. It's being very rash today. I'm very sorry. Being very rash today. I'm just barreling headlong and missing things. Okay, so I've got this assets folder. And let's just, for the time being, just grab all of it and throw it into my assets folder on Glitch on the off chance I need it. Fantastic. And that way I can always update those files, but I don't have to pretend that I'm, oh, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. Will there be any karaoke? I need to see if anyone actually wants to stick around with me. I think that would drive enough people away from the channel. We'll spring that on them later. Twitch sings. Oh my goodness, a Twitch sings thing would be super fun. Do let me know. Today, no karaoke. I don't know if that's in the cards. Would stay for karaoke. Games. We're building a phaser game. I promise. We'll maybe we'll do karaoke one day. Keeping myself on task. A smidge too much caffeine today. That's what I'm thinking. Just a smidge. So let's lit up all these files. Let's maybe actually pay attention and follow this tutorial as opposed to ignoring parts I think I can just skip because I'm smart. These are not the URLs of my assets, but that's okay. I can go grab those. So the sky is going to be this CDN URL. It's not the least tedious thing in the world, but that's okay. Platform. This looks like the platform. Star. And bomb. Because everyone needs something to collect and something to avoid. Really, isn't that the story of life? Everyone needs something to collect and something to avoid. Maybe we're all just sprites. Apparently, I have a rep for karaoke. I'll allow that. Great. So now we can go back to world building, and now I can go. Oh, I need to go to preload, make sure all my those images are loaded, which I've done. Okay. So now if I created a sky, it would work. By the way, if you want to actually wander around in this project with me while I'm coding, you totally can. You don't just have to watch. You can jump into this URL and actually be in this project with me and actually look around the files and make comments and stuff like that. Please hop in. Please look around. Please make a scene. So we've got a create function. Hey, now we're starting to get somewhere. Okay. Sorry, just taking a look at. Oh, look, people are popping in. Hello, Anonymous. Thank you for joining me in this project. World building. Image, creating a new image game object. We've seen that. And so now I should be able to make platforms that my little characters can run on. I made a hash this file already. Platforms equals, did I miss a, oh, they're making a, okay. So we've got platforms, and we've got an image, and we've got a static physics group. See a call to this .physics. This means we're going to use the arcade physics system, but before we can do that, we need to add it to our game config. To fail phaser, our game requires it. And make sure so I haven't added physics. Let's go add physics. And now that I've added physics, ooh, platforms. Okay. Now we're cooking with gas. Now we're cooking with gas. Looks like my platforms are... Looks like my images are a bit wide. Platforms create 400 and 568 ground. Because I made my window a little smaller than they did. So let's read what that does. So lots of different kinds of ground. Oh, and there's just scaling it. Oh, so they're using the same image, and it's already preset for my game. Oh, add a category and tags for discoverability. Could stream to the science and technology category. I should do that. It's nice having. Thanks. It's so nice to have some folks from Twitch in here. I'm super excited. I really appreciate y'all in here. And you're right. I absolutely should add a technology category and tag it properly, because if I do that, people can find me. I don't know if I can do that while I'm streaming. I've already tried to adjust something while I'm streaming and lost my camera feed. So if I can do that while I'm streaming, let me know. Otherwise, I will absolutely do that for my next stream. So I'm going to make this back to the 800 by 600 size, just because I know that if I do that, everything's going to work. Oop, I'm making my dev tools really tiny. What I do is make my window really tiny. There, okay. So, back to business. Add a static group with ground. Create ground. Let's add our player. I agree, let's add our player. And now here's where I am going to diverge, because I'm using my own character as opposed to... oh, thanks so much for the follow. Mauerback. I'll make sure I'm pronouncing that right. I hope I am. Mauerback. So let's create a player. They really like this thing where they create the player outside of the let player. Okay. Player. Oh, does that say? So add sprite. They dropped it at a certain location. His name Dude. He collides with the world bounds, and if I, oh, okay. Create, then generate frame numbers. Let's go back and read what's going on here. The first code creates the sprite. This creates a new sprite called player, positioned at, yep, okay. After it's given a slight bounce, it'll bounce ever so slightly. I think that's just kind of cool looking. No, please, you can add the tag and category and tags. That'd be wonderful. I really appreciate that. Name frames in total, 4 for running left, 1 for facing the camera, and 1 for facing the camera, 4 for running right. So my sprites don't exactly match this, but it should work okay. If I glance back into the preload function, you'll see that Dude was loaded as a sprite sheet, not an image. This is because it contains frames. So right now, my character is just the entire sprite sheet, which does not seem correct. So I'm going to have to go in and make sure that I've got that adjusted. Load sprite sheet, frame width 16, frame height 32. And we're going to create our frame numbers for key left, key turn, key right. I don't have a turn because I don't have, my character never faces the camera. They're either immediately facing left or immediately facing right. And let's take a look at the frames for my my dude. Gonna make this really big, and let's figure out which frame is which for me for just 1 second. Okay, so 0 is me facing right, and then my walk animation is 1, 2, 3. 4 is me facing left. My walk animation is 5, 6, 7. So 8 frames, and that's my walk cycle. Look at those tags. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So my frames for walking left, theirs was 4 for running left, 1 for facing the camera, 4 for running right. And mine are reversed. So it's start at 4, end at 7, start at 0, end at 3. But the whole sprite still is plopped onto the screen. So that's super interesting. Welcome to the 2 o'clock hour. This is where we really get it done. Player Manager is a global system. Animations are available for all. So I need to add gravity and a platform. I also need to figure out why my sprite is loading the way it's loading. I have not yet dug into that, but I do need to figure out why my sprite is loading. Or my sprite is loading and showing every single frame as opposed to just the right frame. Have not yet quite cracked that yet. That's okay. That's okay. We're okay. We're doing great. We're doing super well. Because first we're just gonna, we collide the world bounds. We're going to add a collider. So now I can collide with platforms. Awesome. It's not the character when it hits encounters those platforms is bouncing. That's rad. Not yet close to collide player. But see this? See how Captain Onion here, or whatever the phaser person's name is, it's just the one frame. For me, it's the whole dang sprite. Huh. That is weird. That's very weird. I might need to go back into the code that they provided to make sure what I'm doing matches what they're doing. So we're going to go do that real quick. Because that is definitely a discrepancy. Let's just take a look at part 5 here. Did I specify the size of the sprite anywhere is the question I'm being asked. I thought I'd specified it in the creation of the sprite. I thought I did something. Oh, I don't need the patch notes. Thank you. I don't need the patch notes from VS Code at the moment. I thought, bump the font size up for everyone playing along, that when I created a sprite sheet, I said how big it was, like this. This.load.spritesheet dude assets dude. Let's take a look at this line of code and compare it to the line of code that I have in my project. No, that's a very good question because I think that's almost certainly the source of the issue. So you can see they have a dude. That dude has size properties. Mine are different, but they're both named right, and they both point to a file, and they're both loading a sprite sheet. Hmm. Yeah, I agree. The frame width is way wider than 32 pixels. It's in fact the entire character. So let's maybe this is a phaser 3 thing that I'm making a goof about. Or maybe when I add my sprite, I did it wrong. This physics add sprite, dude. And the dude refers to this, and that's a sprite sheet with a frame height of 32 and a frame width of 16. And yet, when we look at our game, when we look at the game, what we see is very, very tiny, and what we see is I can zoom the whole thing in here so you can see it's the whole thing. That is really weird. That's super weird. Do I have a console warning that says sprite sheet frame dimensions will result in 0 frames? Whoa. Look at my console. Phaser.js sprite sheet frame dimensions will result in 0 frames. Well, what did I do wrong? Look at my console. Sprite sheet frame dimensions will result in 0 frames. Okay, I accept the punishment, but why? Thank you, Cassie and B Cardell, for catching that. That's why you should keep the console open because we could have gotten through this much faster. Sprite sheets is only 2 frames. Show whole sheet. What I'm gonna suspect is that for some reason, yeah, see if it's a Captain Onion to see if it's a code problem versus a yeah, absolutely, we can do that. I'm also just gonna real quick say maybe the image that I sent this is not 32 pixels tall. I make it. Haha! Look at that. Okay, so if I set the frame width to 16 and the frame height to 16, well, we have something of a grisly scene where we just have my head. Doc Porto, sorry, link. Yeah, no links. I apologize. But you can see we now have just my awful, just the awful head. I just got this suddenly got very, very grisly. So what I'm learning is that the image that I thought I exported that was 32 pixels tall must not be 32 pixels tall, because if it was, it would work. 31, note, doesn't work. 30. 30. Why is my sprite 30 pixels tall? Okay. Well, I'm not going to worry about that right now. I could go into Photoshop and tweak and make sure that it's not cropping empty pixels, and okay. Whew. That's fine. Okay, my character is 30 pixels tall, not 32. That's really small, and I'd love to scale it at some point. But that's okay. We'll get back to that. Let's add some keyboard controls, shall we? Better living through copy and pasting. And then we can actually add some meat to our game loop. Oh, yeah, to summarize, apparently I thought my sprite was 32 pixels tall. Uh, I was wrong. My sprite was 30 pixels tall. And that means when I supplied a value of 32, we went, that's too big. And as opposed to giving me transparent pixels, ignored that I provided frame sizes at all and used the entire image. That's not the best, but that's fine. Okay, I can respect that. Now I have an error. Anim is null. Let's go see why. So I'm supposed to create an anim function somewhere? What line does it say that is? Line 100. Player.animate. Oh, turn. Right. My character can't turn. And also can't stop. Also can't stop. Okay, so now my player just runs forever. Okay, let me very quickly just get this back to. Okay, so my player's gonna be running in place. They're not. They're just gonna face. Okay, cool. So the direction is right. So okay, what I'm doing right now is I don't have a turn animation. The original sprite has a sort of non-moving. It has a non-moving position, which means when it's not walking left or right, it's facing the camera. My sprite sheet doesn't have one of those. I'm either facing right or I'm facing left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to track what direction I'm facing at all times, whether or not I'm running in that direction or not. So I'm going to create the direction. I'm going to keep track of what way I'm facing. I'm going to default that I'm running, that I'm facing right. I'm sure there's probably an entity object that I can attach that to. But to start, we're just going to do this, and we're going to say dir equals left. And what that will let me do is, if my player is not running, it'll be default facing left or right. And now down here, when I'm not moving, I can say dir. Now Proto, what window manager do I use? I'm using Moom. This is actually This is Mac OS 10, and there's a utility called Moom that lets me sort of create a nice little grid of windows. But I kind of find it nice. So, all right. So if you go to the game, I now jump like an absolute. Wow, I jump so high. This is very floaty gravity. I think this would probably be some infuriating physics, but we can tune those maybe a little bit. But okay, 215, we've done it. 215, we have made the basis of a platformer. We have a character, it can face directions, it can jump, and it can run. So, this is awesome. This was the minimum viable goal for the day. Maybe I'm underwater or I'm on the moon. There's no way to know. But yes, okay, we've done it. That's so exciting. Okay. Now we can start playing around and changing gravity and doing all the good stuff. Like in my world, I think I want gravity to be way higher because I think people should fall fast. And also, I want to be able to accelerate. I hate this idea that I'm instantly moving or not moving. So I'm probably going to say, first of all, I set the gravity to how I like it. Nice, it's a little bit higher, but maybe I can now adjust and say my character can now jump. uh, that's probably too high. What do you think? I gave it phenomenal cosmic jumping. Fall fast and break things for player movement may result in broken bones. I agree. I like my I don't know, I like my jumping physics much snappier, much more of a Mario Celeste than sort of a Super Meat Boy. Has the bounce based on the height the character falls from? It's not. The bounce, I take that back. Yes, I believe it is. It says bounce point 2. So I'm going to guess that's probably a bounce factor. So if I set that to like bounce point 5, now we're probably going to be, oh yeah, look how bouncy I am. That's pretty springy. Point two, point one. I kind of like the sort of point two bounce. That's a good amount because it means that I can more or less jump again immediately. I'm touching the ground. Grungy platformer physics are fun. Yeah, I agree. I just think like I want to jump fast, fall fast, and be able to move around. So I'm going to say let speed equals 0. So they're saying player set velocity x 160, but really I think it should be, I don't know. I want it to like, I want to have a little bit of lurch and acceleration also, and like, you know, amp up that gravity. I think we're getting closer gravity wise, but it's still very, I mean, the problem is like arcade, like gravity's not, I'm gonna say something a little bit weird here, but like gravity is like platformer gravity isn't uh platformer gravity is like not real gravity at all. This is probably not surprising to people, but it very frequently does not resemble a real gravity curve because it just doesn't, I don't know, like that's not satisfying. I haven't played with Phaser much. I wonder if anyone's done the time travel kind of thing where you can preview jump arcs while tweaking constants. That would be super cool. I don't know, but yeah, I would love to maybe throw a slider in here and give myself different gravity. Just because I decided to make the global gravity of the game 980, which I'm going to pretend is 9.8 meters per second squared, and then of course be able to, my character can now jump at 6 meters a second, which is impractical, but it also can't run very fast. What's Phaser? Oh, hi, Finkel. Phaser is a HTML5 game dev library. So I'm actually using JavaScript to make a little basic game. My character is also really small. I wonder if I can scale that. Now we're gonna go read. Now that we actually have this working, we can play around in the docs a little bit. I feel a little bit less trepidation. Glitch question, Zach Johnson. Can I reference files or functions from other glitch projects? Absolutely. Glitch projects that are running hosted have a server. Now, I can't necessarily refer to a file that's just within another glitch project's like file structure unless they're serving that on their serving that sort of publicly over HTML. So sorry, let's all Ellen Marcher, I'll take a look at the script date thing in a second. But yeah, so I can refer to files that I've served, right? So because this project is serving Phaser, I could go grab this copy of Phaser from this directory, right? This URL here, messy caution, is actually right live. So anyone who's, I can refer to this stuff because it's just like any other website. I can't necessarily grab files out of inside the project without doing some fussy stuff. However, glitch projects underneath the hood are Git repos. So technically, if you had the Git hook for this, you could go check out this project or files from this project into another project. Hope that answers your question. No, Ellen Marchard, I'm super interested in script 8 is sort of, I'm going to assume that's like a JS thing meets Pico 8 thing. But that sounds super cool. I've never heard of that. Well, right now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to make my sprite twice as big because I don't like how small it is. And I'm wondering if there's built-in scaling. Looks like there's a lot of things I can do. Scale X, scale Y, scale mode. Scale factor. The horizontal scale of this game object, the vertical scale of this game object. Let's play at that. So I've got a sprite. So that doesn't work. Okay. I'm falling through the earth forever. I wonder how to do scaling. Those are ignored. I know blocking links is a huge pain in the butt. I apologize to everyone for who's trying to drop links and just getting stars forever. Um, but it's likely for the best. Phaser. Look at this class structure. It's super cool. All this stuff is super cool. Phaser object sprite. Okay, so this looks like a class definition for do.scale x equals 2. Oh yeah, I can try that. So also, it looks like yeah, that seemed to work. It looks like both there's like a class-based interaction. Looks like there's a way to like actually build all this stuff out of classes as opposed to this sort of old school API. I'm wondering this is sort of a 2.0 API. But oh, my character can't quite reach. It's not high enough. But I did figure out how to scale. The scaling mode looks like it's nearest neighbor, so everything's a little blurry. It's not a pixelated scale, but definitely whoever Troglor, thank you so much for that idea for dot scale because obviously that is working. Also, pardon my cat who is scratching something in the background. You may hear that. Let's take a look. So obviously, okay, so the sprite is scaled and it looks amazing, except for the fact that it's a little bit blurry. So let's figure out maybe if we can say, hey, there we go. All right, just keeping it professional here. Can we say when we scale a texture to make it pixelated as opposed to a classic? Set blend mode. I bet this is like a super common thing that I can probably just look up. Phaser. Texture, scaling. Oh, and I don't need to do an image search. Though, fortunately, that was extremely mild. Okay, so we're going to look up how to scale. So I'm scaling a sprite, but how do I scale it in a way that it doesn't look all, I don't know, it does that like thing that you'd actually want to have something do, right? Ordinarily, when you scaled a sprite, when you scaled an image, you want it to like interpolate. But I actually want it to look a little pixelated. Um, it's not important. I probably can just ignore the fact that that's going to bother me. And if someone finds it, they can not link to it, but call out what it is. Because it looks like it's probably ultimately some sort of texture modification. Never mind. Okay, we've got a person, and they can jump. They can't run, but they can jump. Let's add one more thing. I want to add running, and then I'd love to see if anyone has any ideas for stuff I can add to this. If you can think of want me to add other characters or jump ahead in the tutorial to add collectibles or something like that, do let me know. Input. I'm looking up how to get other keyboard keys. Keyboard. These are once again V2. Should be okay. That's an on, but how do I see if something is down? In the default example, we've got cursors, and that creates cursor keys. Can I create other kinds of keyboard input? Is what I'd love to do. I'd love to get maybe a run object, or just maybe have the character speed up. Oh, that could be fun. Let's do that. Speed equals plus equals 10. And then we'll say if speed is less than I'm using phaser 2 or 3. Proto, I'm using phaser 3. It's been sort of bumpy ride, but I'm trying to use phaser 3 instead of phaser 2 just to learn on the newest thing as opposed to trying to learn something older that I'm going to have to relearn. So, okay, my speed is now going to increase as I hold down, and as opposed to me just accelerating immediately, at least when I'm going left, right? So right now if I go right, I'm trotting. If I go left, I am moonwalking. But what I'd love to do is actually accelerate to my maximum speed. Oh, Alan Orchard, thank you so much for watching me make bugs, and thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Okay, so when I'm trotting right, I trot right, and it looks pretty funny. And I trot left, I accelerate. Kind of, you can see it's a real subtle. It's kind of a very gentle acceleration curve, or I'm accelerating so fast you can't even tell. I can't tell what the difference is. Let me try setting that acceleration really low. That would be a miserable way to live if you could only accelerate up to that speed and at that rate. Okay, so now my character has phenomenal speed. Let's maybe turn that back down to 300, and let's This is probably not the right way to code it. I'm sure I just introduced some wonderful. Oh, bye, Lamb Orchard. Thanks. Okay, so now my character kind of slowly accelerates, but if they're at speed and they change direction, they preserve exact speed. I don't know if that's probably. I don't know if that's smart. Oh, that's pretty satisfying. What do y'all think? If you have a chance, you can actually go jump on the uh, jump on the project and run around with the arrow keys and jump with jump with the up key and see how that feels. I think it feels pretty good, other than the fact that it's yeah. All right, I'm gonna turn off the bounce, as fun as that is, just because if you're trying to make something with relatively like snug, tight controls, not being able to jump because you're bouncing kind of stinks. And I may even up my speed limit to like a much higher speed, like 400. Can I make can I make the avatar be a giraffe? Unfortunately, the avatar is me, and I am not actually a giraffe. It says it right in my bio. Okay, so we've got a cool little graphic. Can I even think of some cool things we can add to this now that I've tuned the graphics, gotten the graphics working, tuned the speed, and I feel pretty good. I'm gonna flip through the rest of this build your first project. Um, but for the most part, I feel like we are in like a really cool place right now. So if it was, can I make the avatar be a giraffe? I do. If I knew I could really quickly either draw or get a giraffe sprite set, I would do that. Sound. Oh yeah, sound. Yes, 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 yes. That's a great idea. I'm wondering if there's sound in our tutorial, and if not, uh, we will just go learn. We'll go plunge in and learn sound. I assume we're gonna have to preload it. This is where we're in this weird kind of, I mean, this weird sort of documentation, uh, like Twilight Zone, where there's a bunch of examples, but they're all an old version of phaser, and so it's kind of tricky. This has been a fun challenge. Audio, okay. Fade in loop, proto tracker, sound. Warning: there will be sound starting now. Ooh, those are very noisy. Okay, so let's make a sound. I only know the slightest bit about audio synthesis, but I'd love to make a jump noise. I think I know how to do that in. I think I know how to do that in Audacity. So let's see if I do. Okay. I'm gonna turn the amplitude on this way down to spare everyone's ears in case I get it very wrong. or it makes no noise. That was very long. Uh, and also, oh, duration 30 seconds. We want it to be like, I don't know, zero point 0.5 seconds. 0 0.5 seconds, and let's make it a square wave. And then let's realize that we were going to the wrong audio output. Let's hope this works. Ooh, that's intense. And also still really fast, or still really long, I should say. Okay, so hopefully y'all can hear. Hopefully you were all able to hear that horrible noise I just made. But let's turn this. Let's make this even faster. 0.2 seconds. Okay, that's a little bit harsh, but it might work. Maybe I'll try it with a sine wave, and then we'll make sure that the end is properly faded, just so it's not quite as rough. Now, see, the sine wave sounds a little, I don't know, weak, a little round. This is now I'm just going to be weird about nerd about sound for a second. I know what we're going to do. Generate a second chirp and make it a sine wave. Make sure the audio is mixed well. Down. Zach, thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. No, I've never used BFXR. This is Audacity is just like the thing I reach for when I need to just make a weird noise. I have never heard of that other tool. I'm sure it's very cool. I'm going to fade these out real quick, and then we're going to say that's good enough so we can actually put this sound into our game. Because we could play with it forever. And if we're making a good game, having good sound is important. Good enough. How will I add sound in Glitch will be an asset? Yeah, B. Cardell, I'm going to export the audio. I'm going to assume that I can use that preloader. Okay, so this, I'm going to... Oh, thanks, Zach Johnson, for following. I appreciate that. I'm going to export this as... I don't know if I ever set up MP3 export, so I export it as a WAV file, because I don't think I have time to jump through the hoops of installing a MP3 exporter right now. I understand I'm just going to throw this into my desktop for the time being. Jump.wave. This is me making a bunch of assumptions that I can just do this. BFXR is a neat tool for generating small retro sound effects. I would love to play with that. That might be an evening activity for me. Okay, so now I've got jump.wave in my assets folder. BoostTF, thank you so much for following. Appreciate that. And it does look like my on-screen graphic. Oh, there it goes. The giraffics are working. Okay, so I want to add sound to this. I'm gonna make the gambit that that some of this is going to be the same between 2 and 3, and not bang my head against the wall trying to find the phaser 3. I just realized I copy pasted 2 different URLs. Let me get my URL for jump back. Okay, so now I've got, I understand this is a audio, I understand this is an audio sprite, but we're gonna ignore all of the information about making this a sprite. Is what we're gonna do. And just try to cargo cult our way through here. This dot let's see. This dot sound. That's what I want. We're going to add a sound, and you add a new sound to the sound manager and the asset key for the sound and sound settings. I'm going to leave the sound settings as they are and see if I can just say this dot sound dot add, and it's going to be, if I'm getting the documentation right. Oh, so it's just a string. So it's this dot sound dot add jump. And then how do you play a sound? That's kind of what I figured. So where do I get a reference to that sound manager? This is interesting. How do I get a reference to the sound manager to play it? Let's try that. Let's try the naive thing, even though I don't see this in this method, in this particular function at all. String literal contains unescaped line break on line 46. Sure does. Okay, we got errors. We can fix them. Game.load. Right, it's just called this now. All right, that worked actually as I hoped. If you refresh that page, my character jumps. If you hit the up button, it makes a little noise. All right, that's satisfying. And that feels pretty close to done. So obviously, this is a very, very basic platformer. There's nothing to collect, and nothing can make you start over. But we learned Phaser 3 the hard way. I'm going to do a couple more little tweaks, but definitely I think we've reached kind of a cool wrap point in terms of what I wanted to build. Like, this is now a thing, right? It's got sound, and so there's code in here that shows how sound works. It's got characters and physics. It's got sprites that work. And in 2 hours, we built a working Phaser 3 game and bloodied our knuckles on every possible error we could have made along the way. My first stream I felt super blessed in terms of the relatively small number of bugs we ran into and dead ends. And this one definitely hit a few more. I think that's okay. I think that's part of the fun. Hopefully, y'all had fun following along while I built that. Boots. Unfortunately, like I said, unfortunately, we can't drop links in here. But if you are able to maybe message me that link or maybe use the proper like balderization where you're able to actually like maybe I can even say show what this link is. I'm not sure if I can. I don't think so. Sorry. I'm curious what that is, but I'd love to take a look for other good Phasor 3 examples. But now I've built a very basic Phasor 3 app. I'd love to build a slightly more advanced Phasor 3 game, but I feel like with some documentation, this can be a really nice starting point for someone else. B. Cardell, thank you so much for following. I think we are probably good for this week. I'm going to sit around here and play a little bit longer and see if anyone has any ideas. But I really appreciate everyone following along while I built this out. I'll put a little music on and we'll do a little coding. Go into fun time. Put on some trash midis because I love a trash midi. All right, we're gonna stand here for another few minutes and see if we can't get some collectibles in here. But first, I wanted to get a little fun audio going while we wrap this up. Acrony MSK, what's up? Oh, I don't know if I don't know if I can do FTP WordPress debugging on this channel. I apologize, Acrony MSK. Is this for a glitch project? If it is, maybe you pop into the glitch support channel, and glitch support forum, and ask about that. If it's a glitch question, I'm not necessarily sure for FTP and WordPress what you're referring to. Let's add some stars. This MIDI is very glitchy. Super glitchy. See if we can get a better one. Hopefully that's a little better. You can create a stars variable here. And we're going to overlap with our stars. Let's copy out our and it says if we collect our stars, we can just hide them. And obviously I'm going to need to increment a score or do something, but for now we'll just collect the stars and make them go away. I'm going to quick reformat. There we go. Cool. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching.